morning, friends. It's Julie. Welcome back to Row & Co Farms. I've got a few chores to do this morning on the farm. The doors are locked. Let me go around. All right, there we go. Had my doors locked there and I couldn't get out. Couldn't get in, I guess that's the right word. So I have some chores to do this morning, and then I have a little bit of work to do in the flower farm, and I've actually run into some trouble in the flower farm in the last few days, weeks, I guess. And it's not a great situation, so I'm going to show you what has happened and what I'm going to do about it. So basically, I have a bunch of the plants that I planted out are very stunted and they just don't look like they're going to grow. I don't really know. I have an idea of what could have happened, a couple of things in combination, but I'm really worried that a lot of the flowers that I planted are not going to actually produce anything. So I'm just not sure what to do, guys. This is really, obviously I need to start a whole bunch more seeds and get a lot of more plants in the ground, especially all the things that I thought would already be close to producing by now. So it's going to be hard to catch up, but we are still going to be able to catch up. We're just not going to have plants as early as we originally thought. Okay, so let's go out here into the flower farm and let me show you some of the problems that we've run into. Okay, so right off the bat, you can see in here that some of our rows, the plastic mulch film that we are using is completely torn apart. This was the first row that we did, and we really just had a learning curve. We installed it poorly. We didn't put it down tight enough, and so as wind gets up underneath in the different holes that we made, it just starts to tear it apart. Now, as we've gone on, we've gotten much better. Those rows over there are very tight. We haven't planted them yet, so I have room to plant many more things. But you can see, like, as we've gone on, we have improved our method a little bit. But here's what's happening with the actual flowers. So I have all of these plants were planted three weeks ago, almost 4 weeks ago, and they're just kind of stuck in this state. They haven't gotten bigger. A few have actually tried to start blooming from here in this little small state, and I just don't know what to do. They all look, so I think many of them, when they first got put in, were very shocked by the temperature. I don't know if I didn't harden them off long enough. I thought I did. I hardened them off for several weeks, but they just took a real beating when they first came out. They get plenty of water because they have their irrigation drip system in here, and I need to straighten that out a little bit. But basically everything that's out here just feels like it's at a stop point. It's not getting bigger. I have fertilized, I have tried, and I don't know if I should give up on them and just tear them out and try something else. Right here, this whole row, I mean, everything looks like it got sunburnt almost, because these were green. Of course, they turned this ugly brown and dried out, but everything's trying to come back too. So I just don't know if I should give them the chance. See, this one just completely, it's done. I'm just not sure if I should keep going, if they have a chance to go, or if I need to replant. It's all this same. You see it just looks weak. Here, same thing. Everything is just at this stop point. I planted it out. I don't think it was ready. It's too hot. Even though it's still early in the season, it's too hot. And stuff is struggling. Now over here, it's a little better. sorry, those bags right there were meant to help hold down this plastic because the way it was coming up. But so these are doing a little bit better. I think these are the straw flowers, pretty sure. Yeah, these are straw flowers. They're doing better. They look like they're actually having some growth. A few of them aren't, but they're actually coming up. But my cosmos, I'm concerned because they started blooming before I ever planted them. So I just think they were left in their soil blockers for too long and I stunted their growth that way. I think I just made a lot of mistakes. But the deal now is how do I recover from those mistakes? And I think I just need to plant more seeds, sow more seeds and replant things because we still do have a long growing season. It's not over yet. Definitely not by a long shot. I'm just not going to have flowers as early as I would have liked. So yeah, I think my cosmos can still do well. They're just super short, which means you want tall growth on all of your flowers, and I'm just not getting that. Here's another great example right here, Snapdragons. I have Snapdragons blooming, but look how short they are. They should be so tall, and I just don't know what's happening. It's very disheartening to see because that Snapdragon should be, you know, almost 2 feet tall so that I can use it in a bouquet. Down here's another great example. We planted this yarrow together. This and that down on the end. At the end, it's just stunted. But this here is growing, so I will have some yarrow. But yeah, all this down here, it's not dead. It's slowly starting to make a comeback, but it just hasn't taken off. It's been in this state for 4 or 5 weeks now. And like I said, it's irrigated, so it's getting water. I have fertilized. I'm going to fertilize again today. But yeah, they're just struggling along. Now, not everything is in a bad state. I have lots of things that are looking, had a little trip there. I had lots of things that are looking really, really good. So for instance, let's look here at our bachelor buttons. These guys are as tall as me. Now they are in a raised bed, but they are still so tall and they're coming along so well. I'm really excited. This is literally the only thing I have right now that is blooming and looking amazing. I'm super excited for. And we have a few right here, a few Snapdragons that are nice and tall, but they're struggling a little bit because they're behind these, which are shading them out, so they're having to reach even higher for sun. But take a look at these amazing colors. This is awesome. It's yellow and pink. Can you imagine that in bouquets? And this beautiful white. I love this white one. So yeah, right here in this long bed are all Snapdragons. So these are gonna start coming in really soon. I have lots of different colors in here. So we'll have a good variety and they'll produce all summer. I've got some roses back here and these are not for cutting. These are just for my enjoyment and they are really beautiful and coming along. I probably need to come in and deadhead a few of those so we'll get more. All right, let me flip you guys around so we can show you updates on all of the fun stuff we planted a few weeks ago. So we're here where our arched trellis system is, and we have our cucumbers have started in here, right here. We have one plant right there in the middle, and then several of our seeds sprouted there on the end. Those are looking really good. Let's move on over. We see more cucumbers have sprouted in here and they're looking really good. I've also gone in and planted tomatoes in this bed. We've planted 8 tomatoes. These are our cherry tomatoes. And I am really excited. I have one ranunculus in here blooming. I didn't want to rip it out. I was like, oh, it's trying so hard. So I'm like gonna get a few blooms just for inside for myself. But yeah, the tomatoes are coming along here. We're gonna put some trellising in the middle so they'll have something to hold on to. Our asparagus is coming right along. We've had a few pieces that we've been able to harvest in here, but we're letting these go to seed and get nice and strong crowns. So you see in here, there's this one stem right here, but we only harvest pieces that are bigger than a pencil, and this is obviously very thin, so we're gonna let that go. I'm just peeking to see if I see any good pieces in here. Right now, I don't see any big viable pieces, but back there, maybe there'll be 2 pieces we can get. All right, so over here on this trellis, these are our Kajari melons, and they are coming along. We have one here, nope, 2 in the middle there. That's good. I have a few ranunculus still holding on in here, but we're gonna be planting tomatoes in this bed as well. I have a bunch more tomatoes that need to go into the ground, so we will probably be doing that this morning. So over here, this is parsley and it's going to seed. You can see they've started shooting up their flowers, which are actually quite beautiful. Same up here. They start shooting off lots of little seeds. So at this point, when a plant starts to go to seed, usually that means it's gotten too hot for it. This is parsley, so parsley likes it cooler. It can really grow well here in Georgia, especially all throughout the winter. But once it gets too warm, and it is obviously too warm here for it now, it starts to bolt, and that means it goes to seed like this. It sends these big, tall shoots up, and it'll have little seed pods that come up on the ends of those. So we could then essentially now save the seeds that grow from this, this flowered seed head. We would let this completely, make a flower and completely dry out as a flower, and then we would harvest it for the seeds. At this point, usually the plant itself, the parsley, is probably kind of bitter because it's been exposed to so much heat. So we don't eat it at this point anymore. We just let it go to seed, and then we will harvest the seeds from it. Now back here behind the parsley is where we planted some additional asparagus crowns. I don't see any activity from those yet, and we may not see any activity from those this year. It may be next year before we see anything there. Up here we have some of our beans. And you see they have all germinated all the way down. Looks like we have at least 2 plants in each of those little spots, and I'm not going to thin those out. They will make their way. There's plenty of dirt and nutrients down there for all of them, and so we will let them all grow up there. Same on this side. All of those have germinated really well. We did put some irrigation into some of these beds just to test it out to see if it would work, and it is working. And we have planted some of our peppers in here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got about 15 pepper plants in here. I hope that they will do well. I did peppers in my raised beds last year, and they all did really well. So I'm hoping with this irrigation added that will help. So next bed down, this is another great example of something going to seed. This was my mustard greens, and you see it's shot up this stalk and flowered, and so there will be seeds that come from this up here as well in these little pods. I may be able to harvest those. They may be gone by the time it's time for that. I'm gonna have to take this plant out because I need to plant in here. I've already got a few things in here. These are ground cherries. I have never grown ground cherries before. It's my first time getting those, but this is what they look like. Kind of, let's see if we can get a good shot in there. This right here, they kind of look like they have this paper covering over the fruit. They're supposed to be really good. They're not cherries, they're a tomato. They're basically a tomato. I did not grow these from seed. These are some that I got from a local farm. Then down here, I have a couple of eggplants that I planted in, also from that same farm. So I'm gonna try my hand at eggplant. I've never grown eggplant before. Again, that's a mustard green, and we're gonna just pull those out because they're done. They're a winter and a fall and a winter crop. They do not like the heat. So then down here, we have more of our beans. These are the Chinese red noodle beans, and they germinated really well also. Looks like all of we planted 2 seeds per spot, and it looks like we got germination 100% on those. Same on the other side here, lots of great germination on those noodle beans. And you can see in here our potatoes have started to sprout and shoot up their leaves. Very exciting. Down here we have a few of our beans starting to sprout. I actually put some, what did I put in here? I think I put in rattlesnake pole beans down here. Yeah, this whole bed through here is potatoes. These that are big, these were volunteer potatoes. We obviously forgot some in here last year, and they started sprouting up and growing before the rest. But all the rest of these little plants that you see in here, whoops, something got left, a piece of tape or something. But yeah, all of these little sprouts are potato plants. So last bed here, these are more beans, and we have more peppers in this bed. I had left this little stump. It was lemongrass, and I thought it was going to come back, but it did not come back. So I'm going to have to try to dig that out without damaging anything else in there. So we'll see if I can actually get that out. But yeah, here we have peppers. We have lots of different peppers. Some of them are still small, but peppers do really well in the heat, so they should come along nicely. Now down here in this long no-dig bed is where we've put in more tomatoes. We have our peach tree there, which is doing really great. But down here we've added tomatoes all the way down the trellis system. We have our irrigation lines put in, so everything's getting watered over here. We have a couple of blueberry plants in here still. I need to dig that out because the tomatoes are just going to overshadow those guys, and they just don't do very well. So I need to dig that out, and I need to dig that one out, and we need to move them where we put our other blueberries. All right, so over here on this side of the garden, we obviously have this raised bed has not been filled with anything yet. There's just a few pieces of cardboard sitting in there now, and it's growing a lot of weeds. But this raised bed over here, or semi-raised bed, no dig bed, is doing great. Everything that we've planted in here is really coming up. So down here, and we have made sure our irrigation is in here. So we have 5 drip lines installed, which is really helping these stay well hydrated. We have Rudbeckia down here. That is looking great. It's thriving. We have our feverfew. We have a couple of mums in here, which will, they won't flower until the fall. We have some poppies. Look at these. They're coming along. We had a few that flowered earlier this week, but we'll have a few more coming. So I'm excited for those. This is Sweet William. We have lots of dahlias that are starting to come up in here. More Sweet William over here. More dahlias, lots of dahlias. I'm really glad that I went back and bought dahlias. Every place that I found dahlias, even if it was like Big Lots or or somewhere weird like that, like Aldi, every place that I found dahlias, I bought them. So we are going to have quite a few dahlias that start coming up, which will be a good staple. Man, these Canna Lilies right here, I started with just a few last year, and they have completely taken over this spot, and I think I'm gonna have to dig them out next year and put them somewhere else, maybe near our pool area, because we need something kind of tropical like that kind of spreads and looks good. But this is gonna eventually take over all the rest of my planting area. Now right here, oh, these hollyhocks have they came up. I seeded them last year, nothing happened, and then as soon as it started getting warm here, all of these started popping up, and they are just stunning. They just look amazing. I've never grown these. I'm not picking them or cutting them because they'll go to seed and they will just continue to fill this whole area right here, and I think that's amazing. I love flowers that I don't have to do anything to, they just come back. So yeah, these are foxglove. I mean, look at these colors. They start with this white on the top, and then as they grow, they turn this beautiful shade of pink. I just can't get over them. And they just keep shooting out little pieces. And then on the side here, this will grow into another one, like off to the side, a little offshoot, kind of like these here. And it'll just be a little small version of it. I just think they're beautiful. Then right in here, this area, not a lot has started coming up yet, but there are dahlias planted in here, so I'm hoping that those will, you can see one of them has started there. But I'm still waiting for the rest, so if we don't see anything come up soon, I'm gonna plant something else into this space. Here we have a Sweet William. These have already started blooming. The other ones on the end have not started blooming yet, but they will. And they are really, really cool because they start off as this kind of like, sorry, let me move this tape out of my hand. We start off as this kind of green, you know, poof looking thing. And then they start to sprout these little flowers. You see that here. And then eventually it has flowers all over. And you don't see the little green poofy thing at all. But they get really tall. So that's great. So I can use those in bouquets, and they last a long time in a bouquet. They look good for a long time. So that's a nice fun thing. Then in here we have more dahlias, and they are starting to come up. I see them. I also see a few zinnias because we had zinnias in here last year. So I'm gonna let those just come up. Yeah, we've got lots of stuff happening in here, and I cannot wait to see what they all look like. Now I have a little bit of a mess down here. I'm installing another no-dig bed in here. I just haven't brought the dirt in yet. We installed one on the other side of the fence there, and I showed that in a video already last week, so I'll reference that if you want to go back and see that one. But then on the opposite side here, here's where we have our garlic, and there's onions planted down here. And the onions are just starting to get themselves established. They're still pretty small. I started those from seed, so they take a little while. Onions are a long haul item, but they're starting to come along in here. A few of them have died, but most of them are doing pretty well. I threw a couple of these. I know this looks weird. Let me step back and show you. So part of these irrigation lines are meant to run into this new no-dig bed that I added, but since that bed isn't established, I don't want the water just going nowhere. So I just ran the lines over here so they could at least be helping water those little onions there, because they need help getting established. The garlic is great. I haven't had to water it or do anything to it basically the entire winter. It's kind of doing its own thing, and it looks great. We'll be harvesting that before you know it here in the summer. So I hope we'll get some garlic scapes here really soon. That's how we'll know that it's getting close. But yeah, lots of garlic in there, and then we'll have all of our onions in here as well. Probably didn't grow enough onions for us, but it'll do for now. Okay, so this bed over here is basically herbs. We have dill right here. We have all of our little spring onions that we cut from our chives. They've all started to go to seed now. You see they're starting to create their little seed pod and we're gonna let them do that. And we're gonna let them go to seed so that it'll grow more onions. So I have some space in here. I'm gonna need to plant some more of something. Here's chamomile coming back up. Again, this is dill. There's more dill. That's all sage with the purple flowers. It looks great. We've got some more dill in here. There's definitely some weeds in here too that need to get pulled out. But there are also ants in this bed, so I have to be really careful with all the ants that we get. So down here again, these are all green onions, and they're going to seed. You see their little seed pods here, and we're just gonna let those go to seed. And then here we have thyme, and it looks amazing. We have some grass growing in between that, I see. We'll get that out. But we just keep harvesting from this and drying it. And that's basically how you have to do it. You see, like right here in the front, you can see where I just harvested a little bit, and it's already starting to grow back. So I'm just gonna come in every week and get a nice big bunch of it and dry it, put it in our stockpile of spices to use this year. And I'll do the same with the sage. I'll just keep coming in, cutting lots of these leaves and drying them out, putting them in the jar. And then lastly here, I have this little tower that has some lettuces and different herbs that I bought from a local farm. There's nasturtium, there's oregano, there's some mint, some kales, some this is celery herb here, so it gives a celery flavor. We have some bok choy. There's just some good stuff in here, so just a little small tower garden. All right, guys, so that is the update for now for the flower farm, for the garden. Little mini garden tour. Actually, probably not so mini. That was pretty long. I still have, as you see down here, I have lots of trays of things to be planted. I'm trying to get those hardened off as best I can. I need to keep moving them into the sun so that they get used to being out in the sun. The Georgia heat is already really getting to me. You see, I've been sweating just in those 10 or 15 minutes that I've been out here. It's early in the morning, but it's already super hot. The humidity is coming for us here in Georgia. Most of the time, the humidity is what gets you here versus the actual heat. So, but yeah, the key and the trick to working outside in Georgia is you get outside super early in the morning. Like as soon as the sun comes up, you work until it gets too hot. Then you go inside, you spend, part of the day inside. You do anything you need to do in there. You take a break, you eat, you recuperate, you hydrate, and then you can go back out late in the evening and do the rest of your stuff. It's just too hot to be out here during the middle of the day. It's not safe. I've seen plenty of heat-related injuries during my years as a paramedic and a firefighter, and I just don't mess with the heat anymore, because once you have a heat-related injury of dehydration or heat exhaustion or heat stroke, you are susceptible to have that happen to you again and again. So just don't let it happen. Just hydrate while you're outside working, and just go inside as soon as the sun hits top of the day. And you can see we're getting there now because the sun is getting hot. So I need to work. I'm going to get out here and do some of the stuff that we talked about. I'm going to plant some more seeds and see how things do, and maybe we can recover some of this stunted growth that we've encountered on the flower farm. So just wanted to share that with you guys, like some of the hard parts and things that have happened that have not gone very well, but we've also had a lot of good things. Our flower farm, all the rows have been now completely installed. They've been mulched. The pathways are mulched. That looks great. We are still planning to go in here and mulch and cardboard everything that has grass. So all the places in here that have grass will be mulched at some point. It's just a lot of work. We can't really get in here with our heavy equipment anymore. We have to basically hand wagon, hand pull everything in. And so we just do what we can for a few hours at a time. Again, the heat is a lot, But coming in here with the mower and a weed eater and trying to clean all this up constantly is really, it's becoming a problem, and it's too time consuming. So putting the mulch down and the cardboard down and all that stuff is a long-term time saver, because then you only have to go in and weed in between a few places where things pop up. All right, I still kept talking after I said I was going to stop. Thanks for joining me today, guys, and I cannot wait to see you next time here at Row & Co Farms.